Okay, three, two, one, begin. Yo, what's up? This is KL or Kira or however you want to call me. I don't think I've said my real name yet. I will eventually, but who knows how it's going to be. But I'm actually recording my second episode of my podcast. The last episode was cut in two because, well, if you end up checking them out, then you'll see why exactly. But like I think I said on the second video recording that I had a Amazon guy buzzing on my door and I had to cut mid record. But this one right here won't be a two-parter. This will be just one full thing that I'll upload onto YouTube. And yeah, this is a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed the last video recording, whatever you want to call it, that I made the last time. And some people enjoyed it, and they said it was really cool, and got some likes and comments and whatever, and that was really cool, and it really made my day. So. Like I said before, this is something I'm gonna do now, and I'm gonna do these little recordings. I'm gonna talk about things, and I'm gonna have all kinds of discussions and things like that. And I'm hoping that this will actually grow into something a little bit, more to where I'm not just sitting here recording by myself. I may have somebody with me. Who knows? Face cams, mics, whatever. One day. But right now, this is how I'm gonna start. This is how I'm gonna begin. Today I don't have coffee. I have water. So I'm gonna be every now and then you're gonna hear me drink some water, because like I said before, that whenever you're recording these things, you have to have some water with you, because you're gonna be talking and talking and talking and talking, and before you know it, your voice is gonna just dry. I mean, your mouth is gonna just dry the hell up. Voice or whatever you want to say about it. But before I go into like topics and things like that I was thinking about today, I before I started this recording, I actually just got back from the park. I like to go to the gym, but on weekends, because I like to go to the gym in the middle of the night, like after 1 a.m. I'm serious. I just muted my phone, so that you wouldn't hear a text message, and then my wristwatch goes off. So there you go, another recording where you're gonna hear the ding or whatever it is. But hold on, actually, let me take my wristwatch off. Not wristwatch, but iWatch, iPhone watch, or whatever the hell it's called, and maybe that'll stop that from happening because I muted my phone and then boom, right away, ding. Yeah, so I was at the park just a little bit ago. I was just getting a nice walk on. On the weekends, I try not to go to the gym late at night because I don't like, I don't live far from the gym, but I still drive there. But I just don't like driving around on weekends at night, after hours, if you will, because that's when all the drunks are driving. That's when all that crazy stuff is going on. And, who wants to be going to the gym or whatever, and then you have to drive through a DUI checkpoint or something like that? Which I haven't seen around here in a long time. And I don't know, man. I think maybe in this area, the cops have kind of given up on those because everybody just tells you where the checkpoint is now. Like, I remember it was like 15 years ago, I would always see on Facebook DUI checkpoint on, this street and that street or whatever, So then everybody would just look on, the internet and avoid those things. Like I think there's probably websites and Facebook pages and Twitter's whatever dedicated to telling you exactly where these things are, so they kind of become pointless once that starts happening. I mean, obviously they're gonna nab some people, and I have my feelings about DUI checkpoints. I really do. I'll get into it another time, maybe, or maybe tonight. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm not particular about them. I don't think that they necessarily deter the things that happen with drunk driving, because our society is basically fueled. It's really crazy, isn't it, when you think about it? Like, our society is fueled on pumping people full of alcohol everywhere they go, especially on the weekends, and then we're expecting people to be sober. Like, the hell, you know what I mean? Especially a city like this, the Southern California area. I'll just specify that because I don't really like to say exactly where I live. It's like, yeah, oh, all our restaurants, all our whatever weekends, whatever, blah blah blah. Sporting events, whatever. We're just gonna pump people full of alcohol, and that's gonna be it. You know what I mean? So I mean, and then yeah, pump people full of alcohol, and let's see. Hang on a second. Pump people full of alcohol, and then freaking expect nobody to be drunk driving, especially in a city like this that I live in, where it's like there's no like decent transit system here. You can't just ride a train everywhere, and that's the only time you could ever really have a city like that where People are like Chicago, New York, where you could take trains everywhere. And even then, in those two cities, I wouldn't be going around in the train either because how dangerous they are. But I digress. But anyway, not to. Well, look, this is gonna happen with me a lot. I'm gonna ramble on a lot, and I might get off topic. So I'm gonna have to force myself to stay on topic. But whatever works. I was at the park. I was getting a little exercise, and I was having one of those moments where I was thinking about stuff. And it's funny. I tell you, 39 years old, and I think I've really, for the first time, got to a point in my life now where I can say one of the biggest things that you need to do in your life. I was walking around the park. I was just getting some exercise because, like I said, I don't like to go to the gym on weekends, so I just go to the park earlier and get like a nice walk in, get nice whatever in, and all that stuff. During the week, I'll lift weights and I'll do all those things, but I do a lot of calisthenics even at home. Sit ups, whatever. But anyway, I'm walking around the park, and it just it not occurred to me, but I kind of come to the realization at this point in my life that I'm like, one of the most important things a person can do in their life for themselves. Not just a person. I'll just say a man, because again, I can't speak for women, but maybe people in general. You gotta let go of your anger. I've had a lot of stuff recently that's kind of tough, and you're dealing with a lot of this or that or whatever. And I think the most important thing for a person to do is to just the things that make you angry. You gotta drop them. You gotta drop them. You gotta let it go. You gotta just be like, you know what, enough is enough. I'm not gonna be mad about this. I'm just gonna, whatever, whatever it is. You've been feuding with your father for 20 years, or your ex-girlfriend blah blah blah, or your current wife is driving you crazy, or your boss drives you mad, or whatever. Now, with that said, that's not to say that you should just keep putting yourself in those environments, but at the same time, it's really amazing how two people could eventually kind of come to terms with things, that they just let go of the anger and just be like, all right, whatever, it's all good. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who it is, a sibling, a relative, whatever. But what I'm trying to get at is that I think it's just so important to just go, you know what, it's cool. You know what I mean? And there's no counter arguments, and there's no, oh, but you did this, whatever. It's cool. I think that anger that you have for whomever, whatever, it'll just poison your soul, and you just can't dwell on these things. And I tell you, I don't mean to go back to talking about exercising, but exercising is really important. It really is for a human being, especially for a man. We got all this aggression, muscles, things like that. If we get out and we exercise, man, it clears our freaking heads. That's not to say that there's people out there that don't work jobs like construction or whatever. Oh, well, you need to exercise. I'm sure this guy gets plenty of exercise at his job. But I do know one thing about human bodies is that our bodies tend to sort of like, I don't know if you heard this term before. It's called muscle confusion. It's funny how you might work a job where you're doing construction and get a lot of exercise at your job, but your body knows what energy to put away for that time of day. Well, what would really be a shock to your body is actually working your job and whatever, and then taking a weekend to do some more different workouts that you do. Say you do construction all week, and then you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna lift a little bit, or I'm gonna whatever the case is. Excuse me. But anyway, I don't want to ramble too much about that. But I was just thinking about, I was just having one of those moments. I was at the park, I was walking, I was getting some air, I was getting a little sun before the sun set, getting a walk on and all that stuff, and it's just I think life's just too short to be angry, upset, and hold on to things. You gotta let it go. And I don't, fuck all this crap out there, like shake it off and all that crap. No, 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 no. Shake it off is just another way of freaking hanging on to it, but pushing it aside. But you know what? Maybe I'll save the more better examples for another time. But today, I think it's just really important for me to say that. I think it's great if a person could just let go of whatever is just pissing them off and just try to be happy. Now, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine this morning, and we were talking about how this generation of kids, they don't have the same dreams and aspirations that like my generation or even before that had before that. Someone my age, or a grandparent, or even a great grandparent, they all had similar dreams. It was like, oh, I want to be a police officer. I want to grow up and be a firefighter and save lives. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be, the president. I want to be, things like that. That's what kids used to dream about. And I want to be a professional baseball player, or I want to be, basketball player, or whatever you think of. The way kids looked at things the last freaking 1,000 years or whatever was like that. But it was interesting because my friend was showing me this video, and then he told me this stuff, and he said this generation of kids, they don't want to be firefighters, policemen. They don't want to be movie stars or astronauts. They want to be YouTubers. They want to be YouTubers. They want to be Twitch streamers. They want to be famous on TikTok. That's what they want to be. And it's funny too, because he made a comment and he was like, "Wow, this generation's fucked." And I was like, I guess, what I mean? Who are we as the last generation to judge? I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I'm trying to be sound neutral, but I sort of agreed with him. I was like, yeah, dude, for real, this generation's fucked. But it's. I thought about it later, and I was like, well, but that's their generation. You know what I mean? Like their generation can do whatever the hell they want and dream about whatever the hell they want. But I think it's interesting that there's a lot of young athletes now that just don't have the drive that they used to have. These guys will get drafted in the NBA or the NFL or whatever, and they're lazy and they just want to play video games or stream on Twitch or whatever. There's nothing wrong with those things, but it's like, yo, dude, you got this opportunity here and you got to take advantage of it. As long as sports has been around, people have been thriving to get to that stuff. But what I'm getting at, the reason I'm setting this up this way is because honestly, I feel like, well, all right, I was having a conversation with that same friend, so I'm just brought this subject up, and I said, what makes your life a failure, or what makes your life a success? Like, seriously, what's funny is I'm 39 years old, and I'm healthy, I'm alive, I'm happy. And I don't have a job that I love. I don't live in a place that I love. I don't own a home that I love. I don't, these things. But here's the thing. I've been told by people that I'm an utter failure. I'm serious. You're 40 years old and you've got nowhere in life. And what's funny is I was telling my buddy this morning, I said, bro, what makes a person a successful life? I was like, look, and I told him, I said, I wouldn't change anything in my life, not a single thing. I would change things now. In my past. There is not one thing I've done in my past, in my life right now, that I would do differently. And the reason is because this is my past. This is what shaped me to who I am today. And I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand why you would tell somebody that, especially if it's someone you care about, like a family member or loved one or whatever. Oh, you're an utter failure. Like, what do you mean I'm an utter failure? Like, what do you mean? Like, am I on drugs? No, I don't do drugs. Am I an alcoholic? No, I don't. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't. Do I do I have any kids that are struggling to survive because I'm lazy and I'm not working enough or whatever? No, I don't have any kids. You know what I mean? Do I get into relationships and beat the hell out of the women I'm with? No, I've never hit a woman that I was with. Man, like, I'm dead serious. You know what I mean? There's never been a woman that I've been in a relationship with that I've struck, ever. You know what I mean? It's so crazy how it's like, okay, so I just listed all these things, right? And I'm a failure. I'm serious. I'm a failure. Like they're not. I'm not saying I am. I'm saying that there are people out there that look at me and say you are a failure. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not a drunk. I'm not a junkie. I'm not living in a tent. Yeah, I don't have the best job in the world, but I get by. I survive one way or another because me. That's all that matters. You know what I mean? And if I had a wife and kids and I wouldn't live like this if I had a wife and kids. I wouldn't work. Okay, cool. I got enough. I'll get by, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to work that much. I wouldn't live like this if I had a wife and kids. And this is what I don't understand. And I'm telling you that there are people, there are women that I've dated that have called me these things. said you're this, you're that, blah blah blah. This is why we're never gonna work, or blah blah blah, whatever the case is. And I'm like, what the fuck? Fuck that shit. Like, no, really, think about it. I mean, okay, I'll even look at myself and say, you know what? I could probably be better. And no, I wouldn't even say probably. I bet, for absolute fact, I could be better. For an absolute fact, I could, grit my teeth and get out there and try to find a better job, a real career, or whatever. But how am I a failure? Man, what do you mean? How am I a loser? How am I all these things that, women have called me, enemies have called me, whatever? I'm like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like, look, yeah, I don't have a wife and kids and any of that stuff, but, it doesn't mean, like, okay, how am I putting this? I'm sorry. I'm a little bit like trying to make this point. I think if you're alive and if you're happy, that's all that matters. And if somebody in your life can't accept that, then whatever, move on and get out of my life or whatever. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, what it comes down to is, am I happy? Now, obviously, if you're married or you have kids, you need to make those people happy, and that's fine. You know what I mean? You need to make them happy, comfortable. They need to be able to live their lives and stuff like that. That's what a man should do. But if you don't actually have that stuff, then what the hell's the point? You know what I mean? And again, it just makes me think over and over and over again. I'm not trying to say that I'm content where I'm at in my life, but not only am I not no failure, I'm like, well, just get the fuck out of here. Like, okay, I'll put it this way. What I'm saying, if you, well, again, like I was saying earlier, if you had 2 kids or something, 3 kids or whatever, and a baby mama that was hassling you and blah 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 and all this stuff, she may have a point. You're not working enough. You're not this, blah blah blah, whatever. But if you don't have that stuff, and some broad you're dating that it's got a kid or whatever is talking crap to you, how come you're not taking care of me? How come you're not this? Fuck that bullshit. Like, what do you mean? Get the hell out of here. You know what I mean? Because look, and it's not to say that you can't just, okay, you meet some girl, she's got a kid, and you start dating her. Okay, cool. And then you step it up. But it takes 2 to tango. You can't meet a woman and she's got a kid and she's just like, okay, like, we're sleeping together, so now you take care of my life. Whoa, hold on a second. It don't work like that. Get the hell out of here. You need to do your part. Like, if you want me to be the stepfather of, well, first things first, let's stop right there for a second, okay? Time out for a second. First things first, that kid is another man's responsibility, okay? And this is arguments I've had with women a lot of times where they say, no, if a guy dates me, he needs to take care of my kid. And I'm not arguing a stepfather's job. But like most women say this to you, you can't tell me what to do. You didn't put a ring on this finger. Well, you know what? You haven't accepted any ring on this finger. You haven't put me in a position where we're going to go there. You know what I mean? What I mean by that is, like, okay, how can you expect a man to marry you and then become your son's stepfather if you haven't even allowed your kid or son or daughter or whoever, your daughter, to become to be part of that man's life? Ladies, I mean, seriously, if you're listening, if you got kids and you start seeing a guy and you start fooling with him and blah blah blah, well, guess what? There's a plateau that's going to come where you got to be like, hey, I'd like you to get to know my kids. I'd like you to spend time with my family and things like that. And if you're not going to do that, you've got nothing to complain about. Like, seriously, you've got nothing to complain about. You cannot sit there and look at a man and be like, all right, well, get rich so that you can raise my kids. It's like, what the hell? Get the hell out of here. You know what I mean? But I'm getting a little bit off topic here. The reason why I'm using that as an example is because I think there's a lot of men out there that think that they're failures because some woman told them they were. And it's like, what the hell? Dude, you're not a failure. You know what I mean? Look, no matter what, your life comes down to your life. And again, if there's people out there that were disappointing you or whatever, all right, fine. But at the end of the day, your responsibilities are to you, yourself, and if you have any kids. If you don't have any kids, then you don't have those responsibilities. or like say you have a girlfriend or something like that, and you have somewhat of responsibility to her. But if she's not willing to, merge with you, then it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So she could say, "Oh, you're a failure, and you're this, and you're that, and I'm leaving you, and I'm." It doesn't. Who cares? She never wanted to take that step with you, so what? But anyway, getting off that sort of way of thinking about it, let's look at other types of examples. Like, say you have a father or something like that that's calling you a failure and saying, by the time I was your age, I was doing X, Y, Z, and da 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 da. Well, fuck him, dude. Like, seriously, because again, unless you've got kids, unless you've got a wife. And even the wife thing is so slim now because it's like, dude, women are getting married to get divorced 10 years later so they can get a check the rest of their lives. You know what I mean? It's like we're getting to this point now where it's almost become pointless for a man to get married because it's like, well, you're just going to leave. All these marriages are just ending in divorce now. And it's like, dude, what the hell? Like, why would you even want to do that now? Yeah, I'm not saying everybody. And there's people that get married and death to you part and all that stuff, whatever, or till divorce to you part. I mean, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, right? Well, with that, what I'm saying is that there's almost no point in getting married. And ultimately, I'm trying. Sorry, I'm trying to stay on topic, but I just keep like sort of thinking of these great examples, maybe the examples from the perspective of a man that he would understand. And for all intents and purposes, even the examples I'm thinking of, these can also be used from a woman's perspective. But the reason why I always shy away from saying women too, because I'm not a woman, I'm a man. And I don't see things from a woman's perspective. Men and women see things differently. You know what I mean? So it's like, I look at my life, and again, I don't see a failure. I see someone that can probably accomplish more, maybe go to greater heights or achieve things, whatever, but I don't see a failure because, man, there are people out there. There are men out there that are considered successes that are busting their wives' lips open, or women out there that are considered successes and then they're shooting their husband, or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? Whatever the scenario is, and I tell you, it's so funny because I believe I talked about Andrew Tate on my last video. And I like Andrew Tate. I really do. But I tell you, today I was having kind of a step back with actually liking this guy's way of thinking. Because I kind of started to notice that when... All right, I think it's cool that he says, like, okay, yeah, you go and you be a man and you take care of business and you pull your pants up and stuff like that. That's fine. But I don't think that a lot of the things he says, like, woman left you, well, you're a piece of shit. Like, I'm like, what do you mean you're a piece of shit? You know what I mean? That doesn't always mean that you're a piece of shit. A woman can leave you. She leaves you, she leaves you. Or he says, if you're not strong or whatever, I could take your woman and she could have my kid and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, dude, like, that's not necessarily always true. Now, the reason I'm bringing him up as an example, because I do believe in a lot of things that he says. Like, man, you need to be strong. You need to always be strong. And you need to get through these hard things that happen to you like a man. You need to push, like, not push, but you need to slam it into the ground. But here's the part that was bothering me so much, is that it's like, take that anger and fuel, your wife left you, take that anger and become stronger. And I'm like, nah, just don't do that, man. I'm serious. I don't think you should do that. I really think what you should do is, if someone hurts you, doesn't matter what the scenario is, if they hurt you in some way, you just need to be like, yo, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I guess this is what I meant in the beginning when I was talking about letting go of your anger. I mean, and I don't mean someone like, like someone's physically beating you or whatever. Like say you're 9 years old and your dad gets drunk and he beats the living shit out of you. You need to be out of that situation. You know what I mean? But I mean, like, so you feel like someone betrayed you or something like that. And, but that's the thing. I don't really want to get into that kind of topic yet, because I kind of want to save some of these topics for a little later down the line where people can listen and be a little bit more interested. Like, okay, well, what's your take on this? But it's just really, I think life is just more complicated than sometimes some of these guys like Tate or some of these other some of these big guys that say, oh, you got to do this and that, blah blah blah, and it's like, nah, dude, like, because okay, the reason I'm bringing Andrew Tate is because look, this dude had a kickboxing career, and then he got rich and got endorsement deals and all this stuff, and got rich that way. Not everybody. I guess what I'm getting at is not every man has an opportunity to do something like that. You might be 40 years old and working at a, I don't know, Starbucks or something. Are you gonna get a kickboxing career and get sign $1 million contracts or whatever, or become a professional fighter, professional baseball? No, you're not. That stuff's not in the bag for you. You know what I mean? And it's like, and even if it was, I mean, you'd be one pretty damn like, miraculous thing. I think, I think thinking that way is toxic, is what I'm trying to say. I think it's cool to let the bullshit go, and the criticism that's being slammed your way about being a failure, 40 and you're a failure. Like, just let that shit go, and just basically what I'm trying to get at is, yeah, make yourself better, but don't hold on to the anger and use that as fuel. No, dude, because I think if you hold on, like I said, again, another example, say your father's always been criticizing you your whole life for not being anybody, and you hold on to that anger and to prove him wrong. Well, what the fuck are you trying to prove him wrong for? He thought you were a failure from the get-go. And it's not, look, I can tell you this from absolute experience. If you have someone in your life, like a father, that tells you you are a failure, and you hang on to that anger and you push past that anger, he's not going to go, oh my God, son, you sure proved me wrong. I'm proud of you. Oh my God, look how hard you're working. I'm proud of you. He's still going to call you a failure. He's gonna roll his eyes and be like, "It's about time," or "God, finally you got off your lazy ass." I mean, that's the thing. This is what people don't understand about people that we love, or are supposed to love. But when they see you succeeding, if they're not sitting there going, "Gosh, you've proved me wrong. It's unbelievable how far you've come." If they're being obnoxious about it and being like, "Ugh, it's about time in your life you get off your ass." And these are the supposed to people, dude. You don't need that shit, and you don't need to. Again, like say it's your dad, and he's like, "Oh, son, I see you're finally freaking doing this," and blah blah blah. All right, dad. Well, look, man, take care of yourself. Have a good one, and just be like, goodbye. I mean, like, I used to have a lot of anger toward my own father. I used to have a lot of anger toward him. And I haven't spoken to my dad in 12 years, I think. And I'll probably never speak to him again. The only way I would ever speak to my father again is if I was the only relative left alive and I was the only person left that could, feed him. You know what I mean? Uh, 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 Take care of him until his dying days. I know that sounds harsh, but I watched my old landlord let his mother deteriorate in her filthy house for years and years. I mean, her house was my old landlord. He lived out in another city or whatever. But when I say landlord, it actually meant his mother was the landlord. She owned the property, but she had dementia. She was pretty old, but the son who was supposed to be taking care of her just left her in the house, and she lived in a complete disaster zone. The house was full of rats, full of roaches, full of bugs, full of whatever you can think of. This woman, she smelled all the time. She lived in the because I lived. It was like a property that was like a threeplex or whatever. Like, it was like the front house had a unit, then there was a middle unit, and then there was a back unit. It's where I lived. And this sack of shit just let his mother freaking live in dilapidated filth for years. He'd come by, check on her, I don't know, do something, and then leave from time to time. And it's funny because it wasn't until my brother actually finally got sick of seeing this and actually called the elderly services or whatever. But and they got a social worker and showed up and blah blah. We basically went after this guy, and Fortunately, they got her out and got her home, but it was a whole crazy story. Maybe I'll tell the whole thing, the whole story. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because if my father was the only one, if I was the only one to feed my father, I would take care of him, and that's the only condition. And the only reason is because I'm like, dude, I would never leave a human being like that, you know. But the reason I'm bringing him up as this example is because I don't talk to my dad, and like I said, I'll never talk to him again, and I have no anger towards him, none whatsoever. That's gone for me. That's gone. That's healed. I don't need a relationship with my father. I don't need to talk to my dad anymore. I don't need none of that stuff. I don't need that. Um, I tried to have a relationship with my father. I tried to get to know him on a better level. But I realized when I got into my mid 20s that was never going to happen. My father was never going to be a father to me. He was always just going to be the know-it-all that he is. I know that's a little deep and that's a little bit, whatever to get into. But again, I'm trying to make this solid point about success in your life. And if you are a person that lives your life and you are happy, that person, that loved one, or however it is that cares about you, that you supposedly cares about you and you care about them, if they're sitting there being, you know, well, finally, if they're doing things like that to you, then it doesn't matter. You'll never succeed to that person. You'll never succeed to that father that thinks you're a failure, to that girlfriend that thinks you're a failure, that wife that thinks you're a failure. If they think you're a failure, you're always going to be a failure to them, even when you try hard. I could tell you this from absolute experience. Never let somebody tell you, never let a loved one, never let somebody that is close to you tell you, if you just did better, I'd be a better person to you, because that's fucking horseshit. And at the end of the day, you know what? Like I said, I would never call somebody a failure unless they had kids and they weren't feeding them. Unless they were, because in my mind, I think a man, okay, there's only one person a man has to worry about, and it's himself. And the other person that he has to worry about is his wife and children, if he has them. Okay? That's it. That's all a man has to worry about in his life. And the wife and children are, for all intents and purposes, are more important to be taken care of than his. Given the wife is, she, is doing her part. You know what I mean? Her role as a wife. And, excuse me. If you have that, like if I saw somebody needs to do that, okay, cool. And I'm watching, like say if it was a buddy of mine and his wife is criticizing him, oh, you're not doing this and you're not doing that. I'd be like, man, dude, I'm sorry you're in this situation because you're stuck with her until she decides to file for divorce. But no, you're doing a good job. But if I saw somebody that wasn't, and I knew them personally, I'd be like, bro, you're a fucking failure, dude. Like seriously, man, you need to get off your ass. You need to take care of those kids. You know what I mean? Because once you have kids, that's it. It's not about you anymore. It's about them. And that's why I'm so glad I don't have kids, because it's like, dude, it's not about you. It wouldn't be about me anymore. It'd be about them. But here's the thing. If I had kids and I was with somebody I loved and somebody that I really cherished and whatever, I'm not saying that like, oh, well, if I had kids, my life would change. But I think I really would be like, no, I've got kids now. Like this is what's important. Basically what I'm trying to say is my priorities would change. And here's the thing, and I think I've got to a point in my life where now I realize that if that day does come where I'm gonna have a wife and kids, I'm gonna start before I meet somebody. I'm gonna start before I get into a point where I could, because it's like, dude, if you don't begin this process before you meet a woman that you can have white kids, if you're not already working hard and all this stuff, then dude, you're gonna have a hard time adjusting to the parenthood life. Now, fortunately, if you get someone pregnant, you get 9 months to get your act together. You know what I mean? But even then, it's like I know I would be a good father. I really do, and I know I would probably really I'd really get that how do I put it? I really get things going, because if I had a child, I would love my child. And this is the one thing I would say is just really missing in my life personally, because I'm like, man, Dad, 40 is just a few months away, and I don't have any kids, and I guess I have a lot of love to give. I got a lot of I really want to be able to raise a family and stuff like that. There have been times where I've decided, shoot, maybe I'm just not going to have kids. This is what it is. But I mean, compared to my last podcast, I think this one is getting a little bit more personal. I don't really want to do that too much, but I do feel like I think at the end of the day, if you can hold up your head up high and say, you know what, I'm glad, I'm proud, I've done this, I've done that in my life, and I'm happy and I'm not miserable, then I think that's all that matters. And I think if you want to change things and make things better in your life, you should go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? And do it while you can. I'm 39, man. One day I'm going to be 89 and probably, well, hopefully running around still. But time waits for no man and all that stuff. But again, I'm not trying to sit here and say that everything I'm saying right here is absolute. But I think that like I really think that I think the way you live, when it comes to your feelings and emotions, the simpler you handle it, the better. I think if you like, again, this is why I brought up this whole anger thing right in the beginning. If you're harboring anger for someone or something or whatever, then you're just never going to be able to let go of that anger, and you're never going to be able to truly move on. It's crazy how it works, but like you can, I feel like people lie to themselves a lot and tell themselves that, oh my God, I've gotten so much better now and blah blah blah, and no, you really never really addressed your problems. You know what I mean? What's really at its core? You simply filled the Swiss cheese hole with something. You stuck that in there and said, okay, cool, I'm good now. And you know what? If that's how you go through life, you're going to be 80 years old and miserable if you live that long. You know what I mean? And here's the crazy thing about it. If that's the way you want to live your life, then so be it. That's your life. Because again, at the end of the day, no matter what I say, no matter what he says, no matter whatever, you live your life the way you want to live your life. If that's your life, then that's your life. But I will say this. You gotta let go of that anger. You really do. You gotta let go of that stuff. No matter what it is, no matter what's gnawing at you, you gotta let it go. And you can't fool yourself and make yourself believe that you did when you didn't. You know what I mean? But again, like I can go on about this stuff, but again, I think the best example of it all is to just be like, hey, it's cool. You know what I mean? Don't worry so much about the things you can't control and all that. And again, what I hate about saying this is that it sounds so cliche. And I'm going to let you guys know now that I'm the type of person that I absolutely hate cliches. And I've got a ton of stories to tell. This one is a little bit not so strong today, I don't think, but I just wanted to get another video out there, and I wanted to say, hey, let's have another conversation and things like that. What I actually do is I jot down ideas that I have now. Like when I'm talking to someone on the phone or something like that, and I'm saying like, yo, this is what I was thinking about, and blah blah blah. I'm telling a story, and whatever. I jot that down so that I can go, you know what? Let me make this into a cool subject that I can talk about on my podcast. And yeah, I'm gonna call this a podcast from now on because I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm calling it that. And it's kind of cool. I think most people can agree that if you're listening to someone talk like a podcast or whatever, if you're talking about something people can relate to, then it's interesting. This is the reason why I brought up Andrew Tate earlier, and I kind of flipped my mind a little bit. One of the issues I have with Tate is that he's still saying things from a perspective of a millionaire that's driving around Maseratis and having a huge house, And that's the only issue I have with some of this stuff. I'll probably get into more details about that on another podcast, but it bugs me when somebody's sitting there like, oh, I fucking do this, and I have bitches, and I blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, well, Joe Blow over here doesn't have that stuff, bro. So maybe you could talk about what would you do in his position. And I have heard him say things like this, too, where he's like, you grit down, and you grit, and you this and that. But is riches really worth spending your whole life trying to acquire it? I mean, is it? Like, really, let's think about it. Imagine right now, I said, you know what, I'm going to get a business going, I'm going to do all this stuff, and I'm going to try to get riches. And then I spend the next 20 years of my life, from 39 to 59, just exhausted, just winded, and maybe made some money, but not quite where I wanted to be. And I missed out on a lot of things, and I never had kids, and I never did this stuff. Honestly, I don't know, man. I think that would be pretty sad. And again, who knows? Maybe that's a quitter mentality. But again, I think sometimes people who are wealthy forget sometimes that people who, people might not be the age that they are, or maybe they just don't want to live like that. Like, look, there's people out there that they're not rich or anything like that, but their family's well off, they're well off, they've got all kinds of resources to go to if shit ever hits the fan. So what do they ever need to get rich for? You know what I mean? What do they need to reach these riches for? What do they need to get to this stuff for? Why can't they just go to their job 9 to 5? If you're so fortunate that you've got a nice Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job. I mean, shoot, I've never worked a job like that in my life. But you got a nice 9 to 5. You got a nice wife. You got some kids. You got your parents are still around. You're whatever. So, fuck, dude. Like, if you're happy, you're happy. Oh, you're a failure because you could have been rich like your uncle. Like, who cares, man? I'm happy because I got my family and I got this. Hell, sitcoms used to always press this point, slam it into the ground, and be like, yo, just because riches are a great thing doesn't mean you gotta kill yourself trying to get it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to be rich. I want to get to a point where I've got that stuff. But I tell you, man, I would really rather get to, okay, I'll put it this way. I wouldn't rather, but if I got to a point where I was making $200,000-$300,000 a year and I bought my home and I got my, I don't know, boat or whatever, I think that'd be good for me. I'm serious. I think that would be just fine. I don't think I would particularly care for, not particularly care, but I just don't want to spend the next 20, 30 years of my life trying to get rich and then celebrating it at 80 if I finally do. You know what I mean? Of course, again, like I said, if you get rich quick, great, whatever. But that's what the whole world is trying to do. Ultimately, for me, this is gonna sound kind of funny, but I'm gonna put it this way. I think I'd rather be poor and happy than rich and I don't want to say rich and alone, but I think I'd rather be poor and have children that love me and a wife that loves me than rich and have a wife that leaves me and takes half my money. I it sounds crazy, but it's just, I don't know, man. And again, I envy any man out there right now who's just living, working, even if he makes 50,000 a year or something like that. But he's got a nice wife, he's got great kids and whatever. I envy that man because I'm like, dude, you got a wife that thinks you the world of you, and you didn't have to give her freaking gold and the mountains and whatever. She just wanted you. And you know what? To be perfectly honest, a lot of men out there, dude, you got to be with a woman that wants you and doesn't, recognizes your hard work and doesn't just freaking stick her nose up at your freaking, life and say, oh, well, you don't work hard enough. You're not, you don't need that shit, dude. It's sad too, because sometimes, again, it could be whatever the case. It could be someone who really cares about you and they're just fucked up, or it could be somebody like I said, like a father, and he's just who he is. Sometimes you just have to get to the point where you realize, yeah, this person ain't gonna freaking upset me for who I am. So whatever. But ultimately, look, I used examples early on, and I said, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not a drug addict. I'm healthy. I'm 39 years old. Yeah, not loaded, but I still think I look at my life like I'm pretty darn successful. I'm pretty darn happy. You know what I mean? And look, I wouldn't change my life. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't change anything in my life. I wouldn't change any past stuff because, again, this is me. This is who I am speaking right now. So, A good friend of mine. I haven't spoken to him in years, but he's kind of the man that sort of was like a surrogate father for me. He used to say this all the time: never regret any decision you make, because you've already made it. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And you know what's funny is that they always say that to let the past go. I don't really believe in that anymore. I don't think you should let the past go. I think the past is really important. I think you should let go of whatever your problem is now. But I think I think the past is really important, but the past is something that you need to cherish, even if it was bad. You need to say, you know what, this is who I am because of this past, and never freaking, never try to destroy it. You know what I mean? Never try to let your anger take you over, and just, because I really think at the end of the day, if you let your anger take over and just cause you to alienate people, whoever it is, I think you'll regret that more than anything else. But anyway, I'm sorry. This today's podcast was a really like deep one and all that stuff. I want to get into other topics and things like that. Before I get off, because I'm going to end the podcast here, I want to say that I am going to flip flop between this kind of thing and maybe like the other one I had. I'm going to get into different topics here or there. The reason is because when I told a few people that I know that I started a podcast, they say, "What do you talk about? What do you talk about?" And I'm like, I don't know. I talk about anything. You know what I mean? So the reason why I'm saying this is because I don't really have something I talk about. I don't talk about aliens. I don't talk about government. I think I just talk about life. And for now, that's really what I'm going to do. But it's going to flip flop, and it depends on how people feel about it. You know what I mean? But what better thing to talk about than life? You know what I mean? What better thing to get out? So who knows? Maybe after a while, this will be called the Life Podcast. There, yeah. Kira's life show. You know what I mean? Or KL, if you want to call me that. But yeah, we'll see. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that's most important about doing something like this, is that this is just the start. This is just the beginning of this adventure. I can do whatever I want to do on this thing. And you know what? Whatever it evolves into or whatever, so be it. If I'm still going to, do video game stuff on YouTube or on Twitch, or if I'm going to do this stuff, or I'm going to talk about, I don't know, sports, or I'm going to talk about whatever. I probably won't be doing the sports thing, but there would be time to time where I'll do it. Before I go, I do want to say, most of my life, I was a huge sports fan. I still like sports today, but maybe not the way I used to when I was a kid. Like, it's hard to explain. I don't hate it now, but there was a while I was actually really hating it. And I kind of like got it back because the sports teams that I really like, it's still, it's still fun for me to check it out and stuff like that. But maybe not like how it was back in the day. But we'll see. But this is episode number 2. And this is definitely going up because I think I got into some really cool topics and conversations. And again, ask yourself these questions. Like, seriously, what makes a person a success versus a failure? And how about those examples that I gave? You know what I mean? Like, well, what is it? What makes you a failure? And even then, if you don't believe you're a failure, then what the hell does it matter what anybody else thinks? All right, I'm going to end that right here. I'm going to have a normal ending, and I'm going to cut this off. So thank you guys very much for listening. If you liked what I said, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. I like comments. Seeing comments is cool. And let me know what you think, and stay tuned for episode 3.